So the Wyze Outdoor Cam has dropped, and for $50 you can go and get a base station plus one camera. Now the question is, should you actually do that? Hello automators, thanks for tuning in again. I'm Brian from Automate Your Life, and today I'm going to take the frustration out of automation and potentially save you some money. This outdoor camera from Wyze, it has some ups and it has some downs, and you know what? This is gonna split the audience more than I think a V2 camera, which I can always recommend for every situation, or almost every situation for people. This outdoor camera might not be that. And before all you Wyze fans start jumping on me and tell me about it, we're going to start with the happy things of this latest camera, and then we'll get to some of those reasons you might want to look elsewhere. The pricing is still fantastic. If we are talking about an outdoor battery powered camera, well, Wyze is still light years ahead of lots of these companies. Now their next closest competitor is really Blink and their XT2, and when not on sale, you've got about a $30 less, even delivered, and you pay the extra $10 on shipping from Wyze. Well, you still are about $30 less than a Blink XT2, and you're getting that base station. So it is still a lot less. Now, when Blink goes on sale, they come in real close. So it's going to be a little more interesting going forward, I think. What they did with the pricing on the base station is a matter of contention with some people, but I really like it because it is $10. So right now, if you have to go and buy two starter packs because you want two outdoor cameras, well, you're just ending up with an extra $10 expenditure. So I like that fact, and I like the fact that when you're going to expand later, it's really only another $10 extra. If you ever get more than 4 outdoor cameras, which we'll talk about that limitation in a bit, well, you only have a $10 expenditure, and worst case, you give it to a friend to get them started and they can just go buy an outdoor camera. One thing that's always bothered me about the Wyze cams is that 5-minute cooldown period for motion or sound event triggers. And you know what, I've been able to get around it with some of the Wyze Sense devices, but those are extra costs, and I really don't want that. I just want that 5 minutes to be less. Well, they have actually given us an option with the outdoor cameras to go 1, 3, or 5 minute intervals. I also like the IP65 weatherproofing that they have done, and they've done some additional extensive testing to make sure that water is not getting in there. So I'm really confident about that component of the device, and I like the 25-foot IR night vision. It looks good in all of the screenshots that I have seen, and from all the beta testers, it looks pretty good. Sometimes when you get a little close, looks a little, once in a while, kind of whited out, but that's pretty normal with most of those styles of IR light. One thing I've always personally been a little bit worried about, you know, I love the SD cards on these because they give you that local recording, but if anyone ever sees this camera sitting here, well, they're pretty well known. They might just take that camera and then my local recordings are gone. So I like that the base station actually got its own SD card that gives me kind of 2 locations throughout my home that I will have potentially local recordings at and cloud recordings. And let's be honest, one of the biggest hangups of any outdoor camera is that you have to get power there, and this can cause a lot of people just not to install them. And me personally, I mean, I went to install this Nest Cam at my new place here, and honestly, the cable management was just out of hand, and I went, I don't want to put this out here. Plus, someone can just unplug it unless I'm starting to put holes through my garage and then backfilling, and too much to be honest. I'm too lazy. So I really love the battery powered capability and the fact that I can mount this really simply, really easily, just about anywhere, and that is a clear value for most of us. One of my other favorite features here that's come out with this is travel mode, and I think this is really what I did with the V2 about a year ago. I took it and I used it to monitor my hotel room, and then I took some time lapses and I used it as a dash cam. That really, it seems to be what we have here with the Wyze Outdoor Cam, other than maybe that dash cam capability, because it has a couple of limitations that we'll talk about. So let's actually flip over to some of those negatives, and Wyze fans, if you can stomach it, maybe just listen here, and I'll tell you some of the ways that this might not fit certain situations for you. Let's start with what I think is the biggest thing. It is plain old, not recommended to put it on power or to power the device. But this was something that actually came out on the forums from one of the Wyze engineers, that it is not recommended. It's on the FAQs as well. So you have a real concern here with leaving these connected to any sort of power source. So you will have to, every 3 to 6 months is their average time, go and recharge. Take that camera down, recharge the batteries, and then put it back up. So you're going to be on a ladder a couple of times if you've put it high up. Now, a little calculation here. I'm just going to grab my phone and we'll walk through a calculation. So 10 to 20 activations per day. So I'm going to use 15, split the difference. 3 to 6 months before the battery is dead. That's what Wyze is saying they're using for their average battery kind of time span here. So I'm going to use 4.5 months at 30 days per month, and then we're going to take those 12-second recordings. This gives you 24,300 seconds of recording before you need a recharge. Now, obviously, it's not directly correlated to how many seconds of recording, but when we go and we compare to that competitor, that Blink XT2, what they actually have is 53,870 seconds of time before they have a battery recharge. So that is well over double the capacity or the capability of the Wyze Outdoor Cam. So when we talk about the cost comparison now, it gets a little bit closer when you think about the fact that you are going to be up on a ladder all the time, changing those batteries. So I start to consider the time value of money and the time value of falling off a ladder too. But you know, that's up for you. Now, I don't know if you were a teen, but I was a teen at one point and I did some pretty stupid things, and I might have been playing jokes on people when I was doing those things. There's one design component of this camera that it leads me to believe that if it gets popular enough, there will be kids who figure this out, or just people who figure this out and can easily break the camera or easily get rid of it. And they might do it for fun. They might do it because they need to. And so the problem really is you could just pull the thing off. So you've got that mounting plate that they gave you that you're going to screw in, and that's great. But then it's a magnetic mount, and so that's made it really easy to pull down. I love that, but it also makes it really easy for anyone to pull it down. So I can just see someone going around with like a broom handle and pulling these things off your place. So it's important that you think about the tripod mount, or the little, I believe it's 1/4-inch screw mount that they gave you as an option. You probably really want to take a hard look at that with your Wyze Outdoor cameras. Now, there's a couple of things in the actual specifications that I'm not in love with personally. It's down to -4 Fahrenheit. That is pretty standard on outdoor cameras, but still not good enough for Canada. The 32 gigabytes became a limit on the SD cards, up to, that's the highest you can go to. And the last thing is actually 20 frames a second in daytime and 10 frames a second at night. So, you know, you think about nighttime 1080p and an IR light, and you probably don't have real great quality footage of anything going on outdoors, other than maybe a cute little raccoon running around. The wireless standard did land at 802.11b, G, and N, and while I really, don't love that, it's not that big of a deal. We can live with it. The 4 cameras connecting to the base station has a limitation. That's going to be a big deal to some people. It's kind of a big deal to me, and I hope they expand that. They say they will try to expand it, but the really big thing with all this connectivity that gets me is the base station has to be Ethernet. And this is going to affect a lot more people than I think, Wyze had an idea of or thought would, because there's a lot of us out there that don't have a lot of wired connections throughout our home, and maybe not in really great locations for this base station to keep connected to 4 outdoor cameras all over our places. So this is a real requirement right now. They say they will research whether or not that it can ever be just wireless on both sides of the base station, so connected to the cameras and connected to your home Wi-Fi. But it's a little surprising to me that they could not come out at launch after so many years of development with this product, that they couldn't come out and say whether or not that was possible on day one. So little strange to me, and it leads me to believe this is going to stay Ethernet connected probably indefinitely. Now you can go and get multiple base stations. That is possible right now, so that's maybe a good workaround, but then you're talking about multiple wired connections plus multiple sets of base stations. I don't know how it starts to look in your house, but it'll probably be a little bit messy. And maybe the biggest thing for a lot of people is one of the wonderful features of the V2 that I love. It's that continuous recording capability with the SD card. Well, you know what, guys, battery life, when you're talking about a fully battery powered camera and there's really no option for powering it indefinitely, well, you're not talking about continuous recording. Now, complete motion recording will eventually come to these cameras. That is the statement from Wyze. So that will kind of backfill, make sure you get longer than those 12-second event recordings, but there is no continuous recording option, and I don't think that will ever come. Now, that might push you kind of into the side of maybe I just want to keep a V2 at $20, and I think there's a lot of people that are going to say that when you've got to go from 20 to 50 in this early access, or 20 to 40 with the additional cameras later on. So that's maybe a really great option, and you might be thinking about a couple of locations that you just couldn't get the V2 to work in. Well, I've got a video that takes your V2, puts it in really unique situations. That's up on screen, so I think you go watch that now, and then you decide whether or not you want to go still and buy one of these outdoor cameras. Otherwise, guys, thanks for watching, and of course, don't hate, automate.